Please make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. There's a kind of ache that doesn't show up on X-rays. No fever. No swelling. Just a dull, invisible stab that follows you around like a shadow. That's the kind of pain I felt the moment I read his message. Hey Mom, just letting you know, we weren't really expecting you for Christmas this year. Olivia wants to keep it small. Just us and her folks. No invitation. No warmth. No, we miss you. Just a cold rejection, dressed in polite grammar. I stared at my phone for a long time, blinking back tears I didn't want to cry. I had bought their Christmas tree last year. Paid off the credit card debt. Covered Olivia's dental surgery when her insurance didn't. And now? I wasn't even expected. He didn't know what he'd just done. I'm not the kind of woman who raises her voice. I was the silent kind. The one who showed love through casserole dishes, folded laundry, and emergency wire transfers. The one who never asked for anything in return, except maybe a phone call on Sundays and a place at the Christmas table. My name is Helen Okafor. I'm 62 years old. Widowed. And apparently, not welcome at my only son's Christmas celebration. I gave up a lot when I raised Samuel, my career, my dreams, my comfort. I worked 2 jobs to put him through school. Took out a second mortgage to help him buy the house he and Olivia now live in. And I did it with love. Gladly. But love shouldn't be this invisible. When I received that message from him, something in me shifted. Not in rage. Not even in bitterness. It was clarity. The kind that makes you remember everything you've given, and realize how little of it has ever been truly seen. So I called my lawyer. Then I called the bank. The house was still legally mine. I had paid 68% of the purchase price in cash, quietly kept the deed in both our names, and set the mortgage up so I could step in when they struggled, which they did. Repeatedly. But this time, I was stepping out. Let's see how it feels to be unexpected. I didn't even feel nervous when I hung up with the bank. There was no trembling in my fingers, no racing heartbeat. Just stillness. The woman on the other end had been polite, even concerned. Are you certain, Miss Okafor? Your payment has been auto-scheduled for the last 3 years. I was certain. Certain in a way I hadn't been about anything in a very long time. Yes, I'd said. Let it default. I won't be paying this month. Or next. She paused. I could hear the tapping of her keyboard, her corporate uncertainty. All right, we'll note that. You're aware this may put the house at risk of foreclosure, depending on how far behind the account goes. I smiled. Yes. Let it. 3 days passed. No call. No text. Not even a passing, Merry Christmas, emoji from Samuel. Just digital silence. They weren't worried about me, why would they be? As far as they were concerned, I was some shadowy, obligatory presence. A faded picture in a dusty frame. Good for wiring money, babysitting, and pretending to be included. Well, shadows can move, too. And this one? I was done standing still. It was December 22nd when it started. The first call. At 7:42 a.m., my phone buzzed. Samuel. I didn't answer. At 7:45 a.m., Olivia called. That one, I picked up. Hi, Helen, she said, her voice forced cheerful. Hope you're having a good week. Samuel tried to call you earlier. I saw that, I replied, sipping my tea calmly. Right. So, weird thing. Our mortgage app is showing something funny. A kind of notification. Said the payment wasn't received. I waited. Let her squirm. We're trying to fix it from our end, she continued, her voice climbing in pitch, but the bank says the account holder has paused it. I let out a soft chuckle. Yes. I did. Silence. Thick, dense, incredulous silence. Wait, you did? You weren't expecting me for Christmas, I said evenly. So I assumed you also weren't expecting me to continue paying for the roof over your head. Another silence. Then. Helen, this is insane. You can't just. I can. I did. And the lawyer will be in touch in the new year. Happy holidays, Olivia. And I hung up. Christmas Eve. It used to be a day filled with warmth, with smells of cinnamon and cedarwood, laughter echoing through the house, Samuel sneaking one of his gifts early. This year, I baked for one. Lit a single candle. Played Nat King Cole softly in the background and watched the snow fall. At 9:13 p.m., headlights cut across my driveway. I stood up and looked out the window. Samuel. Alone. I didn't move to open the door right away. I let him knock twice. Hard. Impatient. When I finally opened it, his eyes were red, not from tears, but fury. Are you serious right now? He snapped before I even said hello. You cancelled the mortgage. You didn't even tell us. I didn't flinch. I just stepped aside. Come in, Samuel. Don't wake the neighbors. He stormed past me, pacing like a trapped animal. I closed the door calmly behind him. Do you have any idea what kind of position this puts us in? The bank said the house could go into default. I know, I said, settling back into my armchair. That's usually what happens when no one pays the mortgage. He turned, eyes wild. We thought it was automated. You thought everything was automated, Samuel. The mortgage. My support. My presence. My forgiveness. He stood frozen for a moment, lips parted as if searching for a comeback. But I wasn't finished. You made a decision when you sent that message. You excluded me. You made me invisible. But invisible people still sign documents, Samuel. They still hold power. You just forgot who helped you build that house. We didn't mean it that way. Olivia was just trying to keep things simple. I laughed softly. And keeping things simple meant cutting out the woman who kept your lights on for 3 winters straight. He sank onto the couch, suddenly small again. Like the boy who once held my hand after his father died. But I didn't let myself soften, not this time. So what now? He whispered. You're just throwing us out. No, I replied gently. The bank will do that if you don't figure out a way to handle it on your own. It's time you learned what responsibility actually feels like. He stared at me. For the first time in years, really saw me. 3 days after Samuel stormed out of my house, I got a call. Not from him. From Olivia. Helen, I think we need to talk. Her voice was flat, tight. That high and mighty tone she always used was cracked now, like porcelain with a hairline fracture. I agreed to meet her for tea. Neutral ground. A small cafe on 5th Street, where no one knew us, and where I could watch her unravel without anyone watching me gloat. She came in wearing a beige coat, a designer scarf too thin for winter, and desperation all over her face. "He didn't tell me," she said, before even sitting down. "About the mortgage. Or the cancelled payments. That doesn't surprise me." She blinked. "You're not going to apologize?" "Apologize for what?" "For letting you both feel the consequences of biting the hand that fed you for 6 years." She opened her mouth to respond, but I held up a hand. "Olivia, when your wedding was over budget, who helped cover the florist? When you two had your 3rd temporary layoff, who kept your credit score alive? And this Christmas, when you decided I wasn't worth a seat at the table, did you really think my money would still be good enough to keep your roof standing?" Her eyes glistened. Not from tears. From rage. Or maybe shame. "We thought it was a gift. That you wanted to help." "I did," I said calmly. "Until I realized it wasn't help anymore. It was servitude. And unlike you, I don't pretend love when it's convenient." She stirred her tea but never drank it. Then she said it. "He might lose the house. Do you know what that'll do to our son?" I leaned forward, staring her dead in the eye. "Then maybe your son will learn what his father never did, that you can't build a home on entitlement." The silence between us was cold. But I didn't mind. I had already said everything I came to say. As I stood up, she reached out and grabbed my wrist. "What do you want, Helen? You want us to beg? Humiliate ourselves?" I smiled, slow, knowing. "I want you to remember this moment the next time you try to erase me from my own family." And with that, I walked out. Outside, the wind bit at my cheeks. But I felt warm. Not from the coat, but from a fire inside me that I hadn't felt in years. Samuel didn't leave that night. He slept on my couch, the same way he had in college after Olivia threw one of her tantrums about him not being ambitious enough. Back then, I thought it was a phase. Young love. But now I saw it for what it truly was, control masked as compatibility. I woke early and made coffee. He sat in the kitchen like a shadow, barely touching the mug I placed in front of him. "You know," I said, breaking the silence, "I didn't want to do this out of spite. I wanted to remind you what real family means." He looked up at me. "She said it would look bad if we invited you. That you'd make it about yourself." I blinked. "Inviting your mother to Christmas is bad optics." He sighed. "Olivia wants everything curated. Clean. Picture perfect for Instagram. She didn't want to explain why you were still paying our mortgage." I chuckled bitterly. "So instead of celebrating the woman who kept you afloat, you erased her. Smart PR move." He said nothing. Just stared into his coffee. But it wasn't silence that spoke loudest, it was the notification sound on his phone. A single ping. Then another. Then 5 in quick succession. He ignored it. But I didn't. "She's texting, isn't she?" He didn't respond, but his jaw tightened. "Did she even know you were coming here?" That's when his shoulders sank. "She told me not to," he confessed. "Said you'd manipulate me." Now I stood up. "Manipulate? Samuel, I worked 3 jobs when your father died. I skipped meals so you could have lunch money. If that's manipulation, then maybe love has been redefined without me knowing." He stood too, but not in defense, in shame. I think she's been lying to me about more than Christmas. Now that caught my attention. Like what? There's a second mortgage I never signed off on, he whispered. It was supposed to be temporary, but the payments keep climbing. I froze. This wasn't just about Christmas. This was about everything. A week later, Samuel came back, but not alone. He brought paperwork. A flash drive. A printed bank statement. His eyes were bloodshot, but not from tears this time. From awakening. I checked the accounts. Olivia's been siphoning money from the business account. She listed you as a silent partner for one of her fake consultants. You've apparently been getting paid for the past 8 months. I blinked. I haven't received a dime. Exactly, he said. The money went to a fake LLC she opened in your name. I sat down slowly. She used me to commit fraud. He nodded. And that's not all. The second mortgage. She took it to invest in her cousin's crypto scam. It's all gone. There was a long, weighted silence between us. A silence that carried 2 decades of trust and betrayal. What do you want to do? I asked. He looked at me, eyes now filled with a mix of grief and resolution. I want to fix this. But I can't do it without you. Not this time. I nodded. Then we start with the truth. And a lawyer. He took my hand for the first time in years. Mom. I'm sorry. I squeezed it back. Me too. But now, we do things my way. The day after Christmas, I got a phone call. Not from my son. Not from Marcy. From their mortgage bank. Apparently, something had glitched in their auto payment system. The representative spoke politely, but I could hear the edge in his voice, like he was reading off a screen with bright red flags blinking all over it. Mrs. Carter, as the co-signer and primary contributor on this account, we noticed that the automatic transfer for the December payment has been deactivated. Were you aware of this? I sipped my tea slowly and smiled. I'm very aware. There was a beat of silence. Then a nervous laugh. Ah, right. Just wanted to confirm. Is this a temporary pause or? It's permanent. I hung up. About an hour later, my phone lit up with a call from an unfamiliar number. I didn't recognize it, until I did. Marcy. I let it ring. And ring. And ring. Then came the texts. Hey, Mom. We need to talk. There's a misunderstanding with the house. I think we need your help. Please, call me back. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then I turned it off and went to water my roses. Let them stew. The next day, I got a call from my son. This time, I answered. Mom, he said breathlessly, we just got a letter from the bank. They said the payment bounced. What's going on? I pretended to be confused. Oh. I thought you said you weren't expecting me. At all. That's not what I meant. Come on, Mom, the house. Don't worry, I interrupted, still calm. You're a man now. A husband. Head of your own household. I'm sure you'll figure it out. He didn't know what to say. So I helped him. You know, when you said that thing to me at Christmas, in front of your wife, your friends, it wasn't just the words. It was how easy they came out of your mouth. As if I didn't matter. Mom, I was under pressure. Marcy. Oh, so Marcy runs your mouth now too. Silence. Let me be clear, I continued, voice steely now. I worked for 40 years to give you a better life. You repay that by embarrassing me. Excluding me from my own family's Christmas table. You don't get my name, my money, or my house anymore. You wanted distance. You got it. Mom, please. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this to remind you of who I am and what I'm not. He was breathing heavily now. You said you loved me. I still do. But I love myself more. And with that, I hung up. For good. Christmas morning came again, a year after the one that shattered me. But this time, I wasn't standing outside in the cold holding a fruitcake no one would eat. I wasn't ringing a bell at the door of a house I'd helped pay for, uninvited, unwanted, and heartbroken. No. This time, I was in my new apartment, filled with laughter, warmth, and people who truly wanted me around. Jasmine came by with her kids, carrying gingerbread cookies shaped like hearts. My son said you're the best grandma in the world, she smiled, handing me a hand-drawn card that read, "Thank you for loving us like we matter." The tears that rolled down my cheek weren't bitter this year. They were warm. Healing. I no longer spent my days waiting on people who'd forgotten where they came from. I no longer paid mortgages for sons who only remembered me when their bank accounts blinked red. James did eventually call. After the bank repossessed the house. "Mom," he cried, "why didn't you just tell me?" I said nothing for a moment. Then I simply replied, "You weren't expecting me for Christmas. I figured you weren't expecting me to keep paying your bills either." And I hung up. I chose peace that day. I chose self-respect over begging for love. I chose to stop watering a tree that never gave me shade. And on this Christmas morning, with the scent of cinnamon, children giggling on the floor, and the fireplace crackling behind me, I finally felt at home. Because sometimes, family isn't who you're born to. It's who holds space for you, when the world shuts the door. And this Christmas, I was surrounded by family.